What is up, Dad Shoes listeners? This is Connor. Welcome to Dad Shoes Season 2. John and I are so excited to continue this journey with you. We learned so much last season, and this season we want to grow even bigger. So if you could help us out, share this with your friends, your family, your kids, your pets, whoever will listen with you. We really want to expand this year, and not only in listenership and community, but also in what it means to be a father or parent in general. We hope to branch out and bring in a few guests to share their perspective on parenting. And to kick off, we have a very special guest for episode 1. If you've listened to the show for a while, you've definitely heard of this guy. Our guest today is Tyler Carlin from the Bacon and Eggs podcast and WBNE Podcast Network. Bacon and Eggs was a big influence on the format for our show, and we were super stoked when he agreed to come on today's show. If you're a first-time listener to the show, we are so glad you're here. Welcome to the journey. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at DadShoesPod, or you can email us at dadshoespod@gmail.com. I'm going to stop talking now so we can start talking to Tyler Carlin. Enjoy.
Hey everyone, I'm Johnny, and this is my co-host Connor.
Hi, welcome to our podcast, Dad Shoes.
Have you ever wondered where a dad joke comes from?
Or how dads just seem to have the right wisdom for the moment?
Or you're just trying to figure out what your dad was thinking? Maybe you are a dad and just need to hear,
hey man, us too.
Well, we're learning what it's like to wear the dad shoes.
We would like to invite you to join us on the journey. But first things first, John, we have a guest tonight. Somebody we are both very excited to talk to. You may have heard him from WBNE, from Bacon and Eggs, or their other podcast, Bagels, that my wife is super into. Tonight we have Tyler Carlin.
Welcome, Tyler.
Hello! Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. I hope I'm supposed to talk right now and there's not more intro.
No, that's
okay,
it.
Cool. I'm super excited to be here. I love podcasting. I love being a dad. I have to say it on the show. You can take this line out if you need to. You do know, like, dad shoes, if you move the S from shoes to dad, it gets, like, super weird, right?
Oh, wow. That's true.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, your Twitter handle really threw me off
Good
at
eye.
first. I was like,
Really?
whoa!
We'll have to see if we can put an underscore in there.
I just wanted to share that moment
That's why
with
there's no Dad Shoes, like, competitors out there.
Okay, we're talking about podcasts, we're talking about the industry, so to speak, the capital I industry. Here's my podcasting tip for ye desire to podcast. That's great. You search the title of your podcast on the Apple Podcast app, and you found somebody else already has that name. It is now your job to destroy them. You must pass them. You must be the greatest version of this show. Now, if your like podcast show title is like Armchair Expert with Dak Shepard, you're not going to beat Dak Shepard. Or like the Joe Rogan Experience. But if you want to be the number one dad shoes, you can be.
We're doing pretty well. There was one other Dad Shoes podcast that was out there, because we are Dad Shoes Pod, and I think they were just at Dad Shoes, and they were better at Instagram, but they did not get any episodes out, and so I have recently searched them, and their Instagram is gone. So we've got one.
There you go. You're successful
We've
in
defeated
destroying
one Dad
them.
Shoes podcast.
Awesome.
I think my favorite thing, just on the topic of podcast titles and Instagram, is like Bagels. It was like a super common Instagram hashtag. So like if I post anything with that hashtag, not only do I just look like that person that says Bagels, but also it gets like no traction because it immediately gets buried. But my favorite thing is with Bacon and Eggs is we will get tagged in like restaurants sharing their like their breakfast menu of being like hashtag Bacon and Eggs, and then they'll like at us in the image to try to like grow traction on the post.
And not realize what you are.
Right, and they have no idea because they're just tagging anything with the word bacon in it, right?
Right.
I always think it's funny to see things like that. Anyway, that's enough about like the podcasting capital I industry. What are we talking about on the podcast today, guys? I recently guested on a show. That's what I'm talking about, and I didn't talk about the book at all. People got very upset. There were like negative reviews. So I want to talk about your topic.
For sure. This is, of course, a show about dads. So we are both new dads. John and I are new dads, and you are a recent father as well. How long have you been a father, Tyler?
I've been a father for 360 days. Olivia will be 1 on Tuesday.
That's good.
Down to the wire.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're like right there. But I also I feel like you guys are going to have like great, my toddler said stories. My 1-year-old said Nana today.
Wow.
I don't think she knew that she was saying Nana. I think she just like an N noise followed an A noise.
They got to start somewhere, too.
Kids say the darndest things, don't they?
Hey, take what you can get. My 1-year-old says no. That's her word.
Oh, gosh. That's
She
brutal.
says no all the time and uh-oh.
I'm trying so hard on uh-oh. I'll be like, Olivia, uh-oh. And she'll be like, ah.
Wait till she starts singing along with Frozen.
Oh, my,
2.
she will do that. I'll be like, ah. And she'll be like, ah.
Does she already do that?
Yeah. Oh, she tries to do the like, call and response, the Elsa
Yeah.
and the spirit. Oh, yeah.
Dude.
That's awesome.
It's so funny.
Charlotte May, she's my oldest. She'll just walk in and she goes, ah, and that's her call. And then
Right.
she'll from the first one, she puts them together. I don't know why, but now she's like words like in the song she is singing and getting it like almost on time.
Right. You're like, hang in there, Joan.
Those are the parts that my son loves. It's the little like tags like the hang in there, Joan.
Mm-hmm.
Coco is another one of his favorites. And so we
love
listen to Juanita a lot, and he loves the that's not the words, you know.
Oh,
or
that's so good.
At the end of You're Welcome, he's like, and thank you.
Oh, that's so good. There's another good one in Frozen 2. The oh my gosh, it's Olaf's song. Samantha.
Yep.
What was that?
I don't even know it's Samantha.
Oh, it gets me every time.
That's the best part of that movie.
Oh.
For a
my
while
gosh.
there with Moana, there's that song towards the end where she's like, it's the coming of Moana moment, and she's talking with grandma, and it's like, no, this is who I am, and the line is, I am Moana. And for the longest time, my oldest would go, I am Titus, and he would just shout it at the top of his lungs. You know, you gotta love the spirit.
Is your son's name
That's too
Titus?
My oldest son is Titus. He is 2.5, and my youngest, her name is Riley, and she is 1 year old, just turned 1.
Just turned 1. You were telling me before we recorded, like last week, right?
Yes,
Oh
very
my gosh,
recently.
That's a happy birthday to Riley.
It was a very happy birthday. We're kind of spreading it out. We still have the decorations up. She's getting her 3rd birthday party this weekend. We hoped, you know, we knew that quarantine was a thing, and we hoped that we would be over this by August, and that didn't really work out. So we have kind of spread it out and done a few different outside birthday parties. So I believe this weekend, John, your wife and child are coming over to play in the backyard.
Ooh.
I do believe so. I will be working and hopefully stopping by. But yeah, so speaking about our kids and movies they love, I got a question for you, Tyler.
Okay, I'm ready.
What movie? I mean, you can pick however many movies you want, but
Right.
like, is there one movie that you think your daughter needs to see, and at what age?
Okay, so this is like a super important question because I actually remember the moment in the theater where I was like, I cannot wait to share this with my children. And I think the obvious answer here to get the elephant out of the room is like, I can't wait to share Star Wars with my kids, but that's like,
That's a given.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
but this answer is no better for, I think, our generation of parents is I literally cannot wait to show my child Endgame
Huh.
at all.
That's a good
Like,
one.
I can't wait for I Am Iron Man and like the snap and the death of Thanos. But it's also kind of tough to be like, listen, daughter, I need you to see this heroic moment where Tony Stark chooses the people and not his daughter. So I need you to cry in happiness, not tears of sadness, because this is an important moment.
Yeah.
It's very important. You got to understand, in Avengers, Captain America was like, you wouldn't stay up on the wire for the other people, and he'd be like, I just cut the wire.
Right.
And then he gets a award in Civil War in Spider-Man, and then he learns how to be a hero from Spider-Man because he learns Spider-Man is like, oh yeah, weapons in my area are bad, but he had to learn that lesson in Iron Man 1. That was such an important thing. It was like him producing the weapons and they were bad, but like Peter Parker is just like, oh man, we cannot have weapons in, where is he in this series? Brooklyn, right? Not Queens?
Queens.
I think he's
He's in Queens. Cap's from Brooklyn.
Yeah, he's Queens.
He's in Queens. He's not in Manhattan. It's weird. But like he just implicitly knows that like, oh man, weapons in my borough is definitely not a good thing. And then Tony sacrifices himself. It's just, I can't wait
That's a
to
big
share
moment.
that. It's so good. It's so big.
I love little Stark, and I can't remember her name.
Morgan.
Morgan Stark,
Morgan.
not Arya. I was thinking of Game of Thrones, which I still haven't watched.
No, different Stark.
No, it's Morgan after Pepper's eccentric
Yes.
uncle.
Eccentric
I thought
uncle?
It was eccentric. It was some adjective. Her weird uncle is named Morgan.
Yeah. We watched Endgame just the other day at nap time, and man, my eyes started leaking.
Oh yeah,
It was rough, dude. That part, it hurt.
it hurts bad.
My wife will only watch that movie under certain circumstances because she's just like, if it's gonna make her cry, she's just like, nope, not doing it right now.
Okay, but like Endgame doesn't make me cry like Marley and Me, right?
No. But she's just generally, avoids the emotional. She loves the comedies, the happy movies, the romantic comedies for sure.
Right.
I try to get her to watch as many like dramatic things as I can because, like, no, I want to feel during this movie.
Right. Movies is such a weird thing, and this is coming from like a movie person. I definitely want to, and to get back to our conversation with our kids, I definitely want to share the MCU with my daughter. I really hope that she loves that. I definitely want to share Star Wars because, like, what a great series. We start with like a young boy, and it ends with like Rey, a woman, being like the hero of the whole thing. What a great thing to share with your daughter. So I'm super excited about that. What else? What other series and what other movies are there? Can't wait to show Remember the Titans.
My brother has always said that my kids are so lucky that they get to grow up in a world where the MCU is already a thing.
Right.
Where we have had to wait 25, 30 years, for this to be a thing in our lives, where now my kids just get to grow up and Iron Man is just already a movie, like already a good movie.
Yeah.
Already exists. What age do you think, you asked me this question, but you all have older kids than I do. What age can kids like watch and comprehend and cry at movies?
I don't think we are there yet. I know my family isn't there yet, and as much as I want them to be, I've already had. I haven't like sat down with my daughter to watch them, but we've already played Harry Potter, the MCU, some Star Wars movies. Those are movies I like to watch. I can put on. I've read the Harry Potter books countless times. I can just put on the Harry Potter movie and go about my day, and it's not a distraction. It's just something that's on. So my daughter, it's new to her, and she's only 2.
Right.
So I don't think she gets it, but it's cool. There's flashy lights, and
I think there is. As I say, I think there is like a difference though, and I noticed this with my oldest one especially, where when they were younger, when they were like under 1, and I could put a movie on, and I wasn't worried about them being affected by it.
By scary.
So if I watched a movie with like that was scary or had a lot of violence, and I was like, I'm not too worried about it. She's not comprehending what is going on the screen. But there's a definite difference, like especially with my 1-year-old now is tuned in to that TV.
Right.
Like if the TV's on, she's watching it. And so now I'm a little more cognizant of like, there's a lot of fighting and a lot of guns on that screen right now.
I know.
Maybe this isn't the time for John Wick.
Right.
And that's what I've come to.
Maybe we need to put on Puppy Dog Pals just for a little bit.
We do a lot of bubble guppies in our house.
Bubba Guppies?
Bubble guppies. That's our vice. It's not a vice. It's guppies.
See, I try to watch Molly of Denali.
Oh, what is that?
It's PBS.
Okay.
Molly lives in Denali.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
And
You love this show, man. You talk about this show in what is it, Super Cat or
Nature Cat.
Nature Cat.
Nature Cat. It's like SNL for kids. It's got like an old SNL cast. They got together. They wrote a nature-based cartoon for kids, and it's
it's educational. I've watched an episode or two, but it's got like legit SNL cast members on it. Like Kenan Thompson is on this show.
Oh, no way.
Taron Killian.
What's that guy's name?
Taron Killian. He's Nature Cat.
Yes. He is Nature Cat. It's all these SNL people. I haven't watched SNL in years, but I know who Kenan Thompson is.
Kenan Thompson has been Mr. Sketch Comedy since I was born. So
Yeah, all that, man.
I think he's producing like a new All That. We don't have cable, so we don't get to see that a lot.
Yep.
But I think I've heard that he's producing like a new sketch comedy All That for kids to watch today.
I heard that like just before COVID happened.
yeah. So who knows? But
It's probably on hold for a little bit.
right now.
that clean SNL money.
But what about you, Connor? What about any movies you've got?
I was going to say Star Wars. And I bring that up It's a given. It's the one, like, of course you're going to share Star Wars with your kids. I was going to bring it up specifically. I had this revelation recently, and I tweeted about this, and I put, like, all social media, and I was like, hey, look, I just need a favor from everybody who interacts with my kids. Please don't tell my kids that Darth Vader is Luke's father, because I want to watch them experience that, like, revelation in real time. Right. And I know it's possible, because I've talked to parents who have accomplished this. That actually was a Twitter conversation I got into with a good friend of mine his kids are much older than mine. When I tweeted that, he's like, well, first things first, you have to show them in release order, not chronological. So I'm like, okay, no problem. I'm totally on board with that. And I asked him what age his kids were when he shared this experience with them. And he said his daughter was 9 and his son was 7. And both of them had no clue. Like, it was just a total, original spoil, like, original revelation for them.
Right.
Right. They got to witness when Vader says, "I am your father," and he's like, "What? Oh my gosh!" Like, a spoiler alert for anybody, I guess, who hasn't seen it yet. If you're under the age of 7, don't listen to this part.
Right.
But it was cool that he got to experience that.
But ye child, just search your feelings. You'll know it to be true. Listening to this.
That was good.
Yeah.
So
I'm hoping
that's an important.
It would be easy.
You made an important point here, and I want to get back to whatever you're about to say, but this is true for any film series. Experiencing it with anybody for the first time, release order is the correct order. Okay, like the people filming Captain Marvel in the 90s know what happens in the future, and like will nod to those things in this film. So it's very important. Like seeing a young Sam Jackson in Captain Marvel is like cool and impressive because he looks older in the later films.
Right.
For sure.
Like just watch in release order always. This is the best way to experience things.
See, I've taken to when I'll do a watch through of Star Wars. The last few times I started with episode 1 because that's like the chronological order and you want to read the story from beginning to end. And after you finish episode 1, it's really hard to
put on Attack of the Clones.
To put on episode 2. So I've done it before, and it's like, yeah, okay, this is a sequential story, and you can see how it goes, but it's not the same.
No, and I think what's interesting, I think rewatching Star Wars, I think it's fine to try to do the chronological order thing, and
if you've seen it,
because like then the moment in the series that matters in episode 5 loses its weight anyway because it's coming.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I know that I can watch Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace at any time, but they were like my first blockbusters, so they have like a certain nostalgic value that no other film will ever get.
That Taco Bell ad campaign they had, and the little Star Wars Pogs that you can get when episode 1 came out.
Gosh, that's some good stuff.
I love Pogs. Those things were so much fun.
I don't know if they were supposed to be Pogs. I used them as Pogs.
Right. How old are you guys? I didn't realize that.
34.
34. Okay.
I'm 29.
Okay, so I'm like definitely the baby in this conversation. Yeah. So like I was 7 when Phantom Menace came out. There's no maybe 6. It was 99. Probably not in December. So I was 6. There's no chance 6-year-old me was going to be like anything other than double-bladed lightsabers, the coolest thing you could ever imagine. How did they even think of that? Yeah. They had 1, and then they were like, what if we did 2?
I thought it was great. I thought it was just such a great thing.
Yeah.
I was in like 6th or 7th grade, and we had a dance at the middle school. I went to an art school, and we had a Halloween dance, and this guy came as Darth Maul, and he had his hair glued in the little spikes. Dude, it was the coolest. Like, just because of that, it was the coolest movie. But I remember watching that, the whole I am your father. I was like 4 or 5. Like, I don't remember actually watching it. I just remember that, that's the thing.
I know, I've always known that Vader is Luke's father,
That's like the same experience thinking back. Like, I don't remember watching it and being like, oh my gosh, it was just common knowledge. I'm kind of hoping that works to my advantage here a little bit, because now there's so much more Star Wars to talk about than when we were younger. And like Luke being... or Vader being Luke's father is just such common knowledge. It's like we don't even talk about it anymore. I'm hoping. I mean, I've heard it comes up a lot in some of the side material that's come out, the cartoons and the comic books. But this guy that I'm friends with was able to keep his 9-year-old daughter from really making that connection.
Right.
You know?
I mean, it's like
Before
if you're not a fan of it, if they aren't a fan, they're not going to seek it out and find it. So
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, my kids are probably going to be a fan. They're going to definitely see me watching Star Wars. That's going to be the hardest part.
But you got to remember,
is
it's like since
keeping myself from watching it.
like when I was 6, there was Star Wars, right? There was no 22 film MCU. There was no Potter series.
Right.
There was no Hunger Games. There was none of that. There was, I mean, you could be like a Star Wars fan and like a Star Trek fan, but let me tell you, Star Trek's not good, and those are shows. Those weren't movies.
man,
Those weren't.
went there.
I did go there. I didn't see Indiana Jones until we did it on the podcast, and I've still only seen 2 of those, and it's the first one and the fourth one.
Oh, jeez.
Why
didn't you watch
Hey,
the ones in the
everybody
middle?
be nice. Harrison Ford's great, okay?
Yeah, he is.
Let's see.
And I love Shia LaBeouf in anything.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think it's just even Stevens. Like,
That movie, you're a movie guy. You know about memes with movies. The whole meme of the fourth one was terrible. I'm on board with. I will not argue with anybody who says, the fourth one sucked. But it's got its place.
It's not that bad.
It's
a movie.
It wasn't. If you took it, actually, if you take it actually in context with the rest of the series, it kind of falls right in line. I mean, in the first movie, the guy, like 3 people's faces melt.
Right. And you also, but like, you're not comparing. Here's the issue. People are comparing Indiana Jones with Star Wars or Back to the Future or like some of these great franchises. Indiana Jones is as good, is like the better version of National Treasure. So you got to have like
that connection.
a realistic expectation of like, I don't know. I
I don't
like
know, man. I'm a huge
the Future's
Indiana
not that
Jones
good
fan. Indiana Jones shaped.
So I'm a huge National Treasure fan. Ben Gates, what a
My wife
character!
loves,
Yeah.
but loves National Treasure.
It was
I haven't
good.
seen the second one.
Oh, it's so good. You should watch
I've only
it.
seen the
And
first
then you
one.
should listen to the Bacon and Eggs episode on it. It is genuinely one of my favorite episodes we've done. I think it was Maria Calores.
Did you do both
So
of the
funny.
both of them
What?
or just the one?
I think we did both of them. I know I've watched both of them in the past 3 years since we
I
started
saw
this.
like
So-
National Treasure 2 and I thought, oh wait, let me go listen to their National Treasure 1. And I don't know, I was probably driving and decided to just put it off and I never got back to it.
Right. Well, to be honest with you, like the challenge with Bacon and Eggs is I have no idea what we've ever covered ever.
I've heard you say that before.
Until we look at that big board at the end of the episode, I'm always like, Hocus Pocus. When did we? Hocus Pocus is garbage. My kids don't need to see it.
That's not one you're going to share with your kids every Halloween?
I always loved Hocus Pocus. It was like, it was a Halloween movie, and listening to you guys do Hocus Pocus totally changed my opinion.
Oh, I feel so bad. I don't
No.
want to change your opinion. I want you to still love it. But it was not for, like, it was definitely something that people like from a nostalgia factor. And
That
we
was
just
it.
didn't have that. So we went in and we were like, oh, this is awful. Okay.
You said this is something people only like because of nostalgia, and I'm working. Listen, I'm like, no, not even close. What are you talking about? It's a great movie. I went home and I watched it just to say, you're wrong. It is garbage.
It's so bad. And I wish it was good. I wish there was a good Halloween movie. And my big problem with that is I don't like horror films. So like all of the great things that you can watch at Halloween. And now there are a few now that I really like. I love A Quiet Place and Us.
I haven't
and
seen
Get
any
Out.
of those.
But those are like, they're very
have to
good.
watch
I would
them.
recommend them. I like I Am Legend with Will Smith. That one's really
Oh,
good.
man. I Am Legend is awesome.
Yeah. But I would say, honestly, I say that I don't like horror films, but I've just listed probably 4 of the 10 I've ever seen in my entire life as films that I genuinely like. So I think I just don't like being scared.
Yeah, I'm not big on horror films. And horror movies, just the genre itself never really intrigued me. And so that's why I never really got into them. It's like,
Well,
this
and
is all jump
that's sort of the
scares
like film school is like why horror is the way that it is. I feel like horror is like a gateway for filmmakers. Like M. Night Shyamalan's greatest film is a horror film, and then he made The Last Airbender, and it like is canceled. Like people hate the guy. But like The Sixth Sense, right? That was the one that he
It's a great
did.
movie.
Is like widely regarded as like the greatest twist in cinema history. So like a lot of people will get into horror and like make horror films because jump scares are easy and cheap, and they really do. Like if your goal as a filmmaker is to like get your audience to like, you know, feel something, a jump scare
It's
will
got
do
its
that.
place.
So that's I think why.
But Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I want to talk about parenting. I don't want people to be like, Tyler went on this podcast and all he talked about was the horror movies and the industry. I don't want to talk about the industry. I want to talk about my kid.
Okay, for sure. So what is your favorite thing about being a father?
My favorite thing about being a father? Is that the question? Sorry, I cut out there.
Yeah, favorite things.
A favorite thing about being a father. I love like seeing her grow and develop in everything that she does. Just like seeing her go from like this little thing that can't do anything by herself to now she like plays in her little playroom and she like does self-play. I think my like most powerful moment as a dad was we had like a COVID scare, which we all tested negative, so it was good. But Emily, like my wife, got super sick and it was like all COVID symptoms, like cough and vomit, and, like the whole thing. And so I called her daycare, which is an in-home, so there's only like 5 kids ever. And I was like, hey, I'm so sorry, but we've got to come pick her up. There might be like a situation. And when I got there and she was playing with the other kids and like didn't want to leave and like really was like making that decision of like, no, Dad, I don't want to go. I'm having fun. It was definitely very hard to be like, I'm sorry, we have to leave. Like she doesn't understand what I'm saying, but like, you know, picking her up and taking her out of the room, but just seeing that like that interaction and that moment of her like having this real awareness of like I'm playing with the balls with the other kids and I'm having fun and
Dad, you don't get it. There's balls here and there's other kids.
Right. And I'm enjoying it and I'm like fascinated by this. That was like to date, like the toughest and like happiest I've been as a parent was like seeing her exist happily without me giving her a bottle or her finding her own happiness in what she's doing. And I know it was a small thing. It was a little moment, but it really stuck with me. It's
those
really
little
powerful
moments for sure.
For sure. I'm sure we've talked about at some point on this episode, just like as your kids figure things out, like when they make that connection. Like my daughter is the same age as yours. And I've noticed like in the last 2 weeks, she has learned how to pitch a fit. Yeah. And as obnoxious as that is, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is cool. It's like the same thing. Like, you're seeing them make that connection of like, no, I'm enjoying this.
Right,
like, I
right. You took away the baby wipes that I was eating, and I want them. So.
Yes. Man, I don't know what it is about baby wipes. I've tasted baby wipes. They're not that great.
Not good at all.
I don't know why, but both my kids just love it. So your daughter is in daycare, at home daycare. So you and your wife are both working?
Yes.
My son, my oldest son, we had him home for 2 months. When quarantine started, the school closed at the same time the county schools closed, and I understand the struggle of having to keep your kids home right now.
I know.
When school can't be a thing, especially with a 2-year-old. Like that was a rough 2 months, and so we were glad that he was able to go back to preschool. So he's been going since I think mid-June, but they sanitize everything. My church bought like these foggers. And so they spray disinfectant like throughout every room that gets used. And so we know that they're able to maintain safety. And my daughter just started at the preschool this week, right? Monday was her first day. My wife was come back and she's watching again. She's very disappointed I can't turn the speakers on so she can hear. She'll just have to listen to the episode. And so my daughter just started preschool on Monday, and it's been tough. And so we had Riley home until this week. And there's been a couple times that she's come up to me in the middle of the day, just said like, Connor, I'm bored. I miss having.
Well, and we're in a similar boat. So we both work from home. We're very, very fortunate. We actually work for the same company, and we both work in the office, and we can work from home entirely. And so we both work from home, and she works in like the front of the house on the second level, and I work in the back of the house on the first level. So we're nowhere near each other like during the day, but it'll get very boring, and like it'll be very normal for lunch to roll around and us be like, let's go get Olivia and bring her back, and we don't. It's just like, oh, I'm definitely not going to do that because the second half of the day will suck.
Yep.
And not that I don't want to spend time with her, but
yeah, for sure. But
so like the bulk of my job is essentially like call center work. Like I will take inbound calls for the company and help customers with questions. And I can do that as much or as little as I want, and I do that a lot. And like my clients never care that there is a dog or a baby or anything.
That's awesome.
Ever. They're always so cool about it. If my dog comes in and starts barking, they're like, oh, you're working from home. That's so great. But in my brain, I'm like, I've failed.
Yeah.
This is a failure. I've disappointed my family. I've disappointed the office that I'm talking to.
Shame on us all.
Failed. Shame on us all. And so for that, and I mean, obviously, it's very hard to like get through a business conversation with a baby in your lap or with a dog
for sure.
barking.
And I've brought my children to like church meetings and stuff, just out of necessity. Like you do what you got to do,
right?
And your child is always distracting you way more than they're distracting everybody else.
Yes,
like you are so much more focused on like this is a problem, and everyone's like, dude, it's no big deal.
It's cool. It's your kid, man. Like kids are kids.
Have you flown with Olivia? I mean, she's
yes. Yeah. My older brother got married at Disney in January, so we flew with Olivia then, which was awesome. By the way, I highly recommend that process.
Coming down to Florida.
Actually, we went. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say we flew with her, and she slept on the flight down and the flight back, so it was no big deal.
We went to my brother. My brother got married in New York last August, so my oldest was a year and a half. No, just over a year. She's born in May, so just over a year old. And it was when we got on it was like the second or third. We had to take a layover, and I think it was like the first flight back. We get on the plane, and she just started screaming, and it was nap time, but we're getting on the plane, so she couldn't sleep. And I mean, I feel terrible because nobody wants to hear a screaming baby. But not only do I not want to hear a screaming baby, you don't want to hear a screaming baby, and I know you don't want to hear my screaming baby.
Right. It's not even your screaming kid that you can try to calm down. It's you the fellow plane attendee. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel bad because now I'm making your trip terrible, and so it's naturally my fault that I can't. Right. Yeah.
And I think nothing makes non-parents and even non-parents to your children more comfortable than you having like the screaming child is bad, but almost worse than that is the parenting moment that you're having with your kid of being like, shut up, just like, I just need you to, and it makes people super uncomfortable because you don't talk to human beings that way, right?
Yeah.
Like if your friend was on the plane crying, it would be super awkward, but you wouldn't be like, shut up. We're public.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, she fell asleep right as like the wheels came off the ground and she was out. So she slept the whole way. It was great, but
yeah.
I mean,
I will say this as somebody who flies a lot. Like when there's not a pandemic, my job is to fly a lot. You care, and people who don't fly often care. But the bulk of people on that airplane have experienced this before, and being mad at the guy whose kid is crying adds a third layer of frustration to everybody. Because worse than you having a parenting moment with your kid is another passenger having a parenting moment with you. That's the worst.
Fortunately, we didn't experience that. The closest we came, the flight attendant grabbed her by the hand and walked with her up and down the aisles. The flight attendant did so much just to hang out with my kid and make her chill. And like, oh yeah, it's just totally we're just hanging out, right? It was just so cool.
I bet that made that flight attendant's day too. Just like, okay, hey, I can do something besides my normal job right now.
Both of them had a huge
I get to hang out with the toddler.
It was great. I actually had another question for you, and it's really more of a story. So
buckle up.
The other day, I don't know if you've ever caught your kids doing this, but the other day, I caught my daughter chewing on an electrical cord.
Nice.
And I told her I had to ground her, which is good. She's doing better currently. And now she's conducting herself properly. But
I had the same.
I know. I told you not to go there.
You got to. Sometimes you got to get both parents involved, and it's a two-prong approach. You know.
There you go.
That was good. So, have you experienced any genuine, like, off the top of your head dad joke moments?
Well, my daughter can't talk, right? So I don't get to crack jokes at her very much. But if you were to chat with my wife, I mean, constantly, I am always searching for the pun, in everything. But no, Olivia, she doesn't have words, so I don't.
Well, not necessarily with her, but
I don't get to be like, butter. I never touched her, every time.
I think my favorite one that we've talked about here, we got from my friend Dan. He said his dad does this every time he buys milk. and they're like, "Hey, you want the milk in the bag?" And he's like, "No, I'll keep it in the carton." I just never think of that.
Oh man. I know. Now you're asking me for.
I don't know. I had
can't
one the
think of
other day.
anything. Yeah, let's hear it.
I don't remember what it was. That was the worst part.
I know.
It was just completely off the cuff, totally organic, and somebody said something, and I just responded with it, and it caught me off guard. It was that good, and so we looked at each other and both cracked up, and I can't for the life of me remember what it was. So it must have been really good.
It must have been. There's nothing better than laughter. Laughter is the best part of parenting.
Has Olivia laughed yet?
Yeah, she laughs all the
she
time.
had that real big laugh.
Yeah, I mean, if you like pick her up and tickle her, like she's super expressive. She makes like the funniest faces, and we feed her absolutely everything. I wish I had a funny moment at daycare the other day where we were picking her up, and Debbie, who is our daycare person, she doesn't like the word daycare. Debbie, if you're listening, I don't know what to call you. Nana Debbie is, I think, what she goes by. Nana Debbie was like, yeah, your daughter was, she had some fudge sickles, she had some McDonald's French fries, all this stuff. And we were talking to her, and we were like, man, she'll just eat anything. And we were like, so do the other kids eat all this stuff too? And she's like, oh, none of the other parents let me do this. And I was like, that's an option?
You didn't ask?
Yeah, you didn't ask. You just told me that she ate fudge sickle. I figured that was part of the service.
Right.
There's no book on this.
We did for Charlotte May.
Which, by the way,
my
Debbie,
oldest one.
if you are listening, feel free to feed her whatever. You're fine.
When my son was in like a home care for a little while, and we paid extra for that.
Right.
It was like, yeah, if you throw in $5 extra, you don't have to pack a lunch. I was like, sweet.
Right. Cool. You were talking about your daughter. Your story.
We didn't for the first year until we had her first birthday. She didn't have any sugar, and like no refined sugar. So
You're such a good parent.
she
man.
ate. Oh, dude, you know what?
How's that?
I really wanted to.
How's that college fund coming? I bet it's like all paid for.
It's planned out.
I bet it is.
I planned it out.
Oh man.
But
So you'll notice about John in conversations, he and his wife take a lot more. I think natural is the word I want to use. Approach to a lot of things. Like you guys were. I remember when you guys were really into like no refined sugar for our daughter, and I'm just like, oh, here, Titus, have a cookie. Like.
Right. Olivia loves cookies. They make her so happy.
Yeah.
Wait.
well, here's the thing. Today I brought home cookies because. Do you guys have Publix up there?
I'm familiar with Publix. I've been to Florida.
Wait, I'll be with Disney first. So we have Publix, and Publix cookies were on sale the other day. So I bought a bit of them. So I bring them home just because, and it's dinner time. She's at the table with food in front of her, and she gets up to come say hi to me as I walk in the door, and she sees the cookies, and that's it. That's all she wants, and it's a tantrum because I want the sugar.
Right.
Man, I wish you never had cookies.
Yeah. Some of the scariest things I think about parenting is one, how quickly kids attach to things like cookies. I mean, at least my kids. My kids have been like anything sugar. It's like, popsicle, yes. Cookie, yes. My son will pick out the chocolate chips from the pancakes that we make him. And he's like, nope, done with the rest of that. I just want the chocolate chips. So it's the sugar, and it's the screens. Like, seriously, like anytime they'll pick up a phone,
it's amazing.
Just eyes glued right to the screen. They'll look at the TV, and just how, I mean, I know it's like a big colorful thing, but it's kind of scary, like how quickly they glue to that.
Listen, man, I think the screens are our fault. I really do.
Oh, it totally is.
Absolutely.
Because it's like my kid is in no way different than I am with the screen. No, she's one. It may get worse. I have nieces who are, oh God, 7 and 4, and they're glued to the screens. But like, I literally wake up and go to my office in my house and stare at a computer for 8 hours straight, and then get off that and watch TV with my daughter, or watch movies, or sit on TikTok. What am I supposed to expect she's going to do?
Yeah.
She's going to see the screens and be like, that's what dad does. That's what I do.
For sure.
And like, screens are a real challenge for me in terms of parenting, because on one hand, I'm like, you don't want to be addicted to these things. But on the other hand, I'm totally addicted to this, and you're not going to get a job if you don't know how to use these screens.
Yeah.
Right, you have to use them.
You need to be the most proficient screen ever.
Right.
You change the world with your screen knowledge.
I'm right there with you, because on one hand, I don't want my kids getting like you see the people at the wherever out and about. Not anymore, because nobody goes out and about. But before, you would see people out and about, and the kid gets upset, so mom or dad just hands a kid an iPad,
Right?
And it's like, here, shut up.
And I don't want to be that, but I know that I will be.
Yeah. I will admit I have been that.
Right.
I have been in a restaurant, and my son has, he's a fast eater, especially because we're waiting for our food. But like when they're done and your plate just shows up and he's like, okay, I'm ready to go. It's like, well, I have Disney Plus on my phone, so here's Toy Story. Enjoy. I'm going to have my burger now.
Yeah. And it's tough because like you want to engage in that weird babble conversation your kid is having with you. But at the same time, like, I don't know, I think, especially when you're with other adults, I think it's really, really hard to engage with your kid. This is what I've noticed in my experiences with like nieces and nephews and cousins and things like that, is like, I want to have that babble conversation with the child. I really genuinely do, because I think that's super important for their development. And I think it's super important for like my development as a human being and an adult. Like tinkering with the mind of a child teaches us so much. But at the same time, I think when there's multiple adults around, not just you and your spouse or your partner, it is so easy to just have that conversation with another adult and be like, well, I kind of have a built-in babysitter right now, so somebody will be paying attention to my child.
Yeah.
But I realized that like everyone talks to the other adults, and then you give Toy Story on Disney Plus to your kid, and like my daughter's 1 and I've done it, and she doesn't even know what he is. So I know that I'm part of the problem here, but it's definitely something that like I try to be cognizant of. But of course, I'm not, and I'm a total failure, just like the rest of us.
We've all been there.
I was just gonna say, I think we all are total failures.
Right.
It's tough hanging out with. I've said this to my wife a lot, because we'll go hang out with my brother-in-law and his wife, and we'll want to hang out with friends who don't have kids. But it's tough when you're interacting with people who don't have kids, and the things that you now have to think of that are just not on their mind. Like we've been hanging out with my brother-in-law, and he's like, oh, let's go stand in the driveway because that's where the grill is, and we're going to hang out and grill some stuff, and that's where we'll be chatting. Why don't you come on out with the kids?
Great idea.
Because there's a street right there.
Right. And they are children.
They're fast.
They're faster than I am.
Won't he just sit in this chair and like hang out? Like, no. Like, how many 2-year-olds have you seen? Like, he's going to be up and running. Like, we need something to engage him with.
Right. So let me pull up the quote, because this is one of my favorite quotes. And if you've listened to Bacon and Eggs for a long time, you've probably heard me talk about this before. So About Time is like one of my favorite movies. Like if I were to put together a list of like a movie from every genre that will get you to get to know me and my taste in films, About Time would be my romantic comedy. I absolutely love it.
I think I've heard you talk about this before, for sure.
Yeah, and there's an episode of Bacon and Eggs on it, and it's not perfect, but it's, as far as like time travel romantic comedy starring Rachel McAdams, I would say it's as good as the other one.
My wife is giving me the nod,
which is Time Traveler's Wife. But it's very good. And there's a line in there where they first have children, and he says, and I think about this line every day of my life, especially since Olivia was born. He says, no one can prepare you for the love people you love can feel for them being your children, and nothing can prepare you for the indifference of friends who don't have babies.
Oh, wow.
And it's so true. Like, my friends who don't have kids love my daughter and are very good around her, but like simply do not understand at all parenting.
For sure.
And it's so important. And like, I knew that my friends would love her, but I also,
because they love you,
I didn't realize how immediately your life changes, because like certain instincts kick in that you don't turn on, right? That they're just there now.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that they're there, so you don't realize that other people don't have these. So I think about that line every day.
I think we talked about that on like the first or second episode, that once you become a dad, there is no life before you had a kid. It's like all of a sudden this is when
we haven't had that episode yet. We've talked about it for sure, but just that.
Oh, is that
we talked about having that episode of just like comparing your life before kids, and it's like my kid's only 2.5. It feels like I've been a dad forever.
Yeah, I've never not.
I
had
say
kids.
that not as like a oh, it's been forever. It's like, no, this is like my mental capacity is focused on being a dad. Like that's where my brain's at.
And like a big thing of parenting for me and of being a dad is I remember very specifically growing up and having moments that my parents didn't understand what I was thinking. And I would make a conscious effort of being like, when I'm a parent, I want to make sure that I remember this feeling so that when I talk to my kids about it, I can come to them with empathy, which was like probably the smartest thing I ever did in my entire life. And we'll find out in about 14 years if it was successful. But like, I remember like the first time I felt like head over heels for a girlfriend and my parents being like, yeah, you're 15. You don't know what you're feeling. Mm-hmm. But like to this day, that is like falling harder and being in more pain and love drunk than you'll ever be. Right. Because hormones are insane and they do wild things to your body. And I very much want to like be empathetic to my daughter in that conversation instead of dismissive to like, you will get over this. And I know that you will, but you're not right now. And I need to be there for you now.
Right. Yeah. For sure.
But one of the things that I didn't understand prior to parenting that parenting has taught me is like the value of a legacy, and that like everything I do for my children's success. But I did not get that concept in the slightest when I was not a parent. Yep. And I didn't understand why parents would think that way.
I still don't know why parents think that way. I just know that we do.
Exactly. It's exactly right.
Now, you know what? It's funny. You put into words something that I was thinking. And it's my dad. If you look at pictures of when I was a baby with my dad, it's like looking at me with my daughters. Mm-hmm. I mean, I look just like him, but we're just different people.
Right.
And my dad was great.
So are my parents. I want to be clear about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. But there are things that I see my daughter do that I recognize as me. Okay, that's me 30 years ago. And my dad didn't get me the same way. He didn't understand. Well, not just my dad, my parents didn't understand what I was thinking then. Mm-hmm. And I want to remember when she is going through whatever it is, whether it be, relationships as a teenager or just having a tantrum because she can't get herself past, why won't my shoelaces stay tied,
Right.
I had that tantrum when I was a child. I know my daughter's going to have that tantrum when she is a little bit older, because you're not doing it right, and you've got to like come out and see it. And I always just wanted somebody to explain it to me in a way I understood. And that's exactly it, dude.
That's exactly it. And like one of the things, my wife and I are both first of our family to be diagnosed with ADHD, and we're the youngest. We're both the youngest. And I know that it's not just her and I, because I'll have conversations with my dad where I'll be like, oh, your brain works the way mine does, but you are in your 50s and nobody has ever talked to you about this. So I know that you have like just developed coping mechanisms over the years, but now we have so much more education and so much knowledge about it that like, I know when I was a kid, I would have these tantrums and throw these fits because my brain didn't know how to like produce serotonin correctly. And to like be able to recognize that and to understand that like, my daughter doesn't like, I would throw the biggest fits about going to swim practice. I would just scream and kick and fight, and I would pull on the doors in the cars and do everything I could to get out of the car. And I have no idea why I was doing this. I loved swimming. I loved my coworkers. I loved my coaches. I loved the kids on the team with me. Like I loved it. And eventually I like swam year round competitively, and I went to national meets and I like loved it, but I would just kick and scream and fight to get out of the car. And to this day, I don't know why I would do that, but being able to recognize and empathize with my daughter of being, when that moment comes, whether it's dance or soccer, or swimming or football or gymnastics or whatever it is, of like, your brain isn't letting you enjoy this right now. Your brain isn't letting you get through the door, and I need to help you either get through that door with tough love, which is what my mom did, or say, what, let's go get ice cream. And would that be a better solution? And I don't know what the answer is, and those are the freaking challenges that come with parenting. Yeah. I'm excited to meet them, and I'm excited to cry myself to sleep.
One thing my wife and I have talked about before, and we kind of joke about it with my mom as well, and it's kind of a freeing concept, but it's like no matter how hard you try, like you're going to do something
wrong
that your kid's going to need to go to therapy for.
Right.
It's like
Okay,
something.
do you know why that is? Do you know? Okay, the reason you're going to do something that your kid needs to go to therapy for is because everyone needs to go to therapy. Period.
Yes.
Why would you not? I don't understand. We are brains operating physical body, and we go to the doctor for the physical body. We need brain maintenance. This is first grade. Come on.
True.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said, there's so much more information. There's so much more, and we're really starting to kind of take a step back and think about some of these bigger concepts of like, oh, well, ADHD was identified as a thing like when we were kids, and now that we're parents, it's like, oh, I've experienced that, and so we see things in our kids that's like, Marcy's like, I claim that tantrum.
Yeah.
That's from me.
I do that all the time.
Yep.
The other day, so I have Tourette's.
Okay.
And there are, I remember vividly in like fourth grade, I was trying to take a test, and I'd erased something, and there was a piece of, you get the little rubber eraser string. I tried to brush it off. I couldn't get it off, so it must be something. I erased through a piece of, like a whole test, because I couldn't get this thing off the paper. And my daughter just had this, I don't remember what it was, but she needed something. And I looked at my wife, I said, I'm sorry. That comes all
from
me.
Yep.
She just needs to scream about this, and then we'll go to bed.
Yep.
So
I feel like I've held you guys for a long time. I hope this isn't like an overly long episode, or if this is like part 1 of 6. I don't know.
we're not even at an hour, so we're pretty good.
There we go.
If we could, I'd like to revisit. We talked about the MCUs, something you're excited to share with your kids. I don't know if we really covered the age. Like, when do you plan to start watching the MCU and expect your daughter to enjoy?
It's delicate, right? Because it'll depend upon future children. Because I want my kids to experience this together. And this is like such a hard concept to think about. Because, like, what if I have another kid and they're just definitely not going to be interested? And what if she's definitely not interested? We're still developing that personality.
Mm-hmm.
But I think between ages like 7 and 10 is when I really want to get into it. But I do think there's a genuine challenge that comes from, like, all it takes. There's so much MCU content. All it takes is like one 4-year-old birthday party centered around Spider-Man to be like, well, we're doing the whole thing now.
Yeah.
So, whenever it makes sense.
That was my brother. My brother was all about Spider-Man.
Yeah. Well, how could you not be, man? Spider-Man's so good.
Yep. So you've kind of alluded to this, but there are future kids in the. I don't want to say in the plans. I mean, you can't really plan anything, but
for sure, yeah. We're at 1 right now. I think it's very. This conversation always leads to, like, I don't want to commit to like 6, but I also can very well see a reality with a lot.
Yeah.
But, like, at the same time, if after 2 we're like, nope, this is a lot. This is already a lot. I'm done. Like, I can also envision that reality. But I know right now the answer is more.
yeah.
Tyler, it's been great having you on here.
But this has been super fun, guys. You guys are funny. You're nice. You're welcoming. I've really enjoyed guesting with you today. And I'm not always available. Holy crap. Am I not always available? I am the least available.
So next Thursday, right?
I am busy. I'm the least available human, but if you'd like to pencil me in the future, I would love to do what I can to make the schedule work. This has been a ton of fun. Thanks for having me.
That is awesome. Thank you for being here. Do you have anything to plug since we got you here?
Yeah.
What you got for me?
So there's a few things. My wife and I are raising money for St. Jude. I don't know if you know, there's a pandemic and there are sick children in this world, and we would like to.
No.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe it.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have made a joke about that. I'm sorry.
I started the joke. I set you up. There are sick children in this world, and we would love to help pay their medical expenses in any way we can. So we are raising money for St. Jude so that we can run the Walt Disney World Half Marathon in January. Whether or not the race happens remains to be seen. Either way, we want to be raising the money so that we can give back in any way that we can. And I can send you a link for that. If not, it's in the link to every episode of Bagels. Let's see. What else do I want to plug? Listen to all the shows at WBNE.org. That's the podcast network that I own, and they're all very good.
I'm a fan of at least 2 of them.
There you go. You'll like them all. You guys would love Hello from Elsewhere. It's two parents talking about like deep themes in fiction. It's so good.
Yeah, I have recently subscribed to that one. I've listened to a couple episodes. I think I listened to the one that you did with him about Ready Player One.
Love Ready Player One.
Because that is also, like, I'm not a big reader, but I have gone through Ready Player One at least 3 times. I am very excited for Ready Player Two. I have downloaded the second book that he did, the other book that's not related.
Armada.
Yeah. I haven't listened to it yet, but I have that on Audible.
Can I warn you now? Can I tell you now? It is not as good.
I don't expect it to be.
Go ahead and lower your expectations. Let Will Wheaton read you to sleep for a few nights.
Yeah,
it's just
that's part of the bonus too, is just listening to Will Wheaton. So.
Will Wheaton.
And of course, if we haven't made it abundantly clear, Tyler, of course, is from the podcast Bacon and Eggs, a movie lovers podcast. New episodes every Thursday.
King of Staten Island. Oh, pay for King of Staten Island, people. That's what I want to promote, because they told me to tell you that. So that's my job right now, is to tell you to watch that movie.
Awesome. Well, Tyler, it has been truly a pleasure to talk with you. A dream come true, I dare say.
Well, that's like super flattering. You guys are awesome. Way cooler than me.
Don't let the beards fool you. Anyway, Tyler, thanks for hanging out with us. And thanks for you, listener, hanging out with us today on the Dad's Shoes. We would really appreciate it if you would share this with your friends. Help us get the word out. If you enjoyed our podcast, reach out to us on Twitter at DadShoesPod. I'm going to have to fix that. Thank you, Tyler. Or email us at dadshoespod@gmail.com. What movie experiences are you excited to share with your children as they grow up? We would love to hear from you. We'd also really appreciate it if you'd leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast. Thanks again for hanging out.
Peace.